Other books and DVDs by David Icke. Books: The David Icke Guide to the Globe Conspiracy, and How to End It. Infinite Love is the Only Truth. Everything Else is Illusion. Tales from the Tis to Freedom. Rise like lions. What is freedom? Ye can tell that which slavery is, too well, for its very name has grown to an echo of your own. 'Tis to work and have such pay as just keeps life from day to day in your limbs, as in a cell for the tyrants used to dwell, so that ye for them are made loom, and plough, and sword, and spade, with or without your own will bent to their defense and nourishment. 'Tis to see your children weak with their mothers pine and peak, when the winter winds are bleak, they are dying whilst speak. 'Tis to hunger for such diet as the rich man in his riot casts to the fat dogs that lie surfeiting beneath his eye. 'Tis to let the ghost of gold take from toil 1,000-fold more that ere its substance could in the tyrannies of old. Paper coin, that forgery of the title deeds, which ye hold to something of the worth of the inheritance of earth. 'Tis to be a slave in soul and to hold no strong control over your own wills, but be all that others make of ye. And at length when ye complain with a murmur weak and vain, 'tis to see the tyrant's crew ride over your wives and you, blood is on the grass like dew. Then it is to feel revenge fiercely thirsting to exchange blood for blood, and wrong for wrong. Do not thus when ye are strong. This is slavery. Savage men or wild beasts within a den would endure not as ye do, but such ills they never knew. What art thou, freedom? Oh, could slaves answer from their living graves this demand, tyrants would flee like a dream's dim imagery. Let a great assembly be of the fearless and the free on some spot of English ground where the plains stretch wide around. Let the blue sky overhead, the green earth on which ye tread, all that must eternal be witness the solemnity. Ye who suffer woes untold, are to feel, are to behold your lost country bought and sold with a price of blood and gold. Let a vast assembly be, and with great solemnity declare with measured words that ye are, as God has made ye, free, and these words shall then become like oppression's thundered doom ringing through each heart and brain, heard again, again, again. Rise like lions after slumber in unvanquishable number, shake your chains to earth like dew which in sleep had fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few. Selected verses from The Mask of Anarchy by Percy Bysshe Shelley. It was written after the Peterloo massacre carried out by the British government in Manchester in 1819 against people who had gathered to demand the reform of parliamentary representation. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream, and not make dreams your master, if you can think, and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build 'em up with worn out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose, and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. Yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Rudyard Kipling. Now think, no. Starry, starry night, paint your palette blue and gray, look out on a summer's day with eyes that know the darkness in my soul, shadows on the hills sketch the trees and the daffodils catch the breeze and the winter chills in colors on the snowy linen land. Now understand what you tried to say to me and how you suffered for your sanity and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how, perhaps they'll listen now. Starry, starry night, flaming flowers that brightly blaze, swirling clouds in violet haze reflect in Vincent's eyes of china blue, colors changing hue, morning fields of amber grain, weathered faces lined in pain or soothed beneath the art. Starry, starry night, flaming flowers. Now understand what you tried to say to me and how you suffered for your sanity and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how, perhaps they'll listen now. Don McLean. The Human Story. There is an Eastern tale that speaks about a very rich magician who had a great many sheep. But at the same time this magician was very mean. He did not want to hire shepherds, nor did he want to erect a fence about the pasture where the sheep were grazing. The sheep consequently often wandered into the forest, fell into ravines and so on and, above all, they ran away, for they knew that the magician wanted their flesh and their skins, and this they did not like. At last, the magician found a remedy. He hypnotized his sheep and suggested to them, first of all, that they were immortal and that no harm was being done to them when they were skinned, that on the contrary, it would be very good for them and even pleasant. Secondly, he suggested that the magician was a good master who loved his flock so much that he was ready to do anything in the world for them. And in the third place, he suggested that if anything at all was going to happen to them, it was not going to happen just then, at any rate not that day, and therefore they had no need to think about it. Further, the magician suggested to his sheep that they were not sheep at all. To some of them he suggested that they were lions, to some that they were eagles, to some that they were men, to others that they were magicians. After this, all his cares and worries about the sheep came to an end. They never ran away again, but quietly waited the time when the magician would require their flesh and skins. This tale is a very good illustration of man's position. G. Gurdjieff, quoted by P. D. Ouspensky in his book, In Search of the Miraculous, 1949. Nothing is impossible, unless we think it is. Imagine being able to walk through walls. You wouldn't have to bother with opening doors, you could pass right through them. You wouldn't have to go around buildings, you could enter them through their walls and pillars and out through the back wall. You wouldn't have to detour around mountains, you could step right into them. When hungry, you could simply reach through the refrigerator door without opening it. You could never be accidentally locked outside your car, you could simply step through the car door. Imagine being able to disappear or reappear at will. Instead of driving to school or work, you would just vanish and rematerialize in your classroom or office. You wouldn't need an airplane to visit faraway places, you could just vanish and rematerialize where you wanted. You would never be stuck in city traffic during rush hours, you and your car would simply disappear and rematerialize at your destination. Imagine having X-ray eyes. You would be able to see accidents happening from a distance. After vanishing and rematerializing at the site of any accident, you could see exactly where the victims were, even if they were buried under debris. Imagine being able to reach into an object without opening it. You could extract the sections from an orange without peeling or cutting it. You would be hailed as a master surgeon, with the ability to repair the internal organs of patients without ever cutting the skin, thereby greatly reducing pain and the risk of infection. You would simply reach into the person's body, passing directly through the skin, and perform the delicate operation. Imagine what a criminal could do with these powers. He could enter the most heavily guarded bank. He could see through the massive doors of the vault for the valuables in case and reach inside and pull them out. He could then stroll outside as the bullets from the guards passed right through him. With these powers, no prison could hold a criminal. No secrets could be kept from us. No treasures could be hidden from us. No obstructions could stop us. We would truly be miracle workers, performing feats beyond the comprehension of mortals. We would also be omnipotent. What being could possess such godlike power? The answer: a being from a higher dimensional world. Physicist Dr. Michio Kaku, author of Hyperspace, a scientific odyssey through parallel universes, time warps, and the 10th dimension. Greater than equals a, IV equals or equals if n cytoseon n bel IINOTLT1 inicio sales. There are some Easter Tate speak KJOS ed a. Great Mary F. Shea ant 4, Vei Remea. Did not wart GPTM ne oi IAA 21 UCYSNA now and tiles sanen. SL Sil, Pio, Mihara Ener at Bri Maipai and Hianiapaistharan Enquirog, at Pakrili Il Woyo or Bevo. Wetar Esbuzo da Avon DH, and we can no Inger stand there staring at the map pondering which direction to take. It is hardly a Humanity is at a fork in the road, and we can no longer stand road, and we Humanity is at a fork in the road, and we can no longer stand there staring at the map pondering which direction to take. It is hardly a choice, after all. One road leads to a global fascist communist dictatorship that would control every aspect of our lives, including our thoughts. The other will open the door to freedom and potential on a scale never experienced in the world as we have known it. Hard one, isn't it? A choice between a prison and a paradise. Wow. Decisions, decisions, decisions. SSGRIO or enlati enig AAA hia sa and a noi pair of thicker priv bnog gamma ts priate avert tant rejig with scion, 6-5 ver 2. It set of Jatevits rsib sanermdanist isdot sof zbes. Sot sn. Wo nibuloni jovi wo to shri viawe farina blow re. O tilde. Bite my obsessed of 100 b ad. Mage FIW Torito and tripod. EY, SW 26 feet 00. To put your head in the sand, you have to be on your knees if a tornado is coming. What is the most effective response? To bury your head in the sand and convince yourself it's not coming. That would be fine for a while, but the tornado is still coming in. Your backside is in the air and right in its flight path. Ignorance appears to be bliss, and then, is it not more intelligent to acknowledge the tornado, get off your knees, turn around and face it? In doing so, you are taking control of the situation and giving yourself the power to take avoiding action. This is the choice that humanity is faced with today. Remember, ignorance may be bliss, but only for a while. Knock, knock, knock. Darling, who can that be at this time of night? Za ione naid. Ors, spermos yon 2 aco 9 teri riata atiarag rio hatssar insula 9 cents. The only tyrant, except in this world, is the still small voice. Within Mahatma Gandhi I have lived a strange life. Well, very strange by most people's standards, but it doesn't feel strange to me at all now. It did once, to be sure. One minute I was a respected television anchorman, the next I was possibly the most widely ridiculed figure in British history. What happened? I woke up. Ironically, while the world was dubbing me insane, I was in the process of regaining my sanity. I was becoming conscious, or at least more so. In fact, the T in the context of these words is not an I at all. It is an experience called David Icke. The real I, the eternal T, is the consciousness I was becoming, reconnecting with, while David Icke, my human personality, or experience, was being labeled the crazy man. Humanity is so desperately confused about the difference between the real I, the consciousness that is their eternal self, and what we call the human body, mind, personality. One is who we are and the other is what we are experiencing. It is this confusion that leads to billions of people living out their false identities, believing that this is who they are. I am Ethel Brown. I am Charlie Smith. I was born here, work there, like to go to Spain for my holidays. Thus, they see themselves overwhelmingly in terms of limitation. I can't, little me, Joe Public, I have no power. This suits the networks of global manipulation and control because, to state the obvious, it is far easier to shepherd and suppress billions of Ethel Browns and Charlie Smiths than billions who know that their primary state is eternal consciousness, all that is, has been and ever can be. We are not our bodies, we are infinite consciousness having an experience through our bodies. Fig 1 over leaf. Let me make it clear where I am coming from in this book right at the start, because everything you will read relates to this, including my own story experience. We live in a virtual reality universe, very well symbolized by the Matrix movie trilogy, although there is far more to it than that. We are not our bodies, nor even our minds. These are the vehicles that allow us to experience the virtual reality universe, a fantastically advanced version of the internet in many ways, as we shall see. If you want to access the internet and experience what it has to offer, you can't just log on by yourself. You need a conduit, or interface, that lets you go online. We call this interface a computer, and the virtual reality universe operates in much the same way, though, of course, on an infinitely greater level of sophistication. We are talking spaceships to counting beads by comparison, and tilde thensum. The real I, consciousness, AF has no form in its eternal, infinite state. It is just awareness. The interface employed by consciousness is the computer system that we call the human mind and body. The body is a most obvious computer when you look at the evidence, and its communication system is what we call mind. Or, rather, what I refer to as the mind. We talk about my mind, his mind, her mind, their minds, and so on, but I would suggest there is one mind, the mind. It is the interface between consciousness and the virtual reality universe, and everyone from a New Ager to a Wall Street banker is expressing different aspects of the mind, unless they become conscious and realize that mind and body are not who they are. Then they can open the mind to consciousness and become aware of their real self. Figs 2 and 3. You might call this a state of real self-consciousness, as opposed to fake self-mind. Figure 1. The human body is only one level of R, by say infinite consciousness. The body is not who we are. Very few people have this realization. It is a vehicle to experience this virtual reality, though that is changing because the universe are pressured and manipulated to see themselves as their minds and their bodies. They look in the mirror and say, "That's me," and they listen to the endless thought chatter in their heads and say, "That's me." But it isn't. That me is not a me at all. It is the vehicle for the real me consciousness to experience this reality. Humanity has been deceived on so many levels and in so many ways to identify the me, the I, with mind and body. This fake identity entraps our focus of attention, our awareness, in the mind-body and disconnects it from the true I, consciousness. This is crucial to both our own experience and the world we collectively create, given that their perspectives are so vastly different. Consciousness knows that everything is one, while the mind sees everything in terms of separation and division. Mind, as a servant to the experience of consciousness, is fine, that's the role it is meant to play. It is when we think we are our minds and bodies that the trouble starts. We are then caught in an illusion that we think is real. It is mind that gives us the experience of this realm of form, or of things, by decoding vibrational reality into illusions like time, space, and apparent physicality, much as a computer decodes information on a software disk into pictures, text, and graphics onto a computer screen. Time, space, and physicality do not exist except as an illusory construct, and we experience them through the decoding. Figure 2. Most of humanity has a self-identity that relates to their body, mind, and this makes them a prisoner of the five senses as they close their mind to their higher levels of awareness. They are entrapped in what I call the eggshell, or the bubble suit, passing a piece of paper to a woman in a dress who gives it to a bloke in a t-shirt. The means of communication may look different, but it is the same information. The principle applies to the body computer that communicates and decodes information vibrationally, electrically, electromagnetically, and chemically. The book you are looking at now only exists in its apparent, physical form inside your brain, and the same with everything else that you see, including the sun, moon, and stars that seem so far away. All the sight, sound, touch, smell, taste, colors, temperature, and the experience of distance, solidity, even movement, are all vibrational information, waveforms, decoded via the five senses and the brain into the illusion of systems of mind and body, as I will be explaining in detail. It is so simple when you see how it all works, and extraordinary when you realize how physical reality is so different to what we think it is. The physical world you see is outside of you, only exists in that form in your brain. Ridiculous. Impossible. No, simply true. We don't see with our eyes, we see with the decoding systems of the brain. The eyes turn vibrational information into electrical signals which the brain decodes to construct our physical reality. Fig 4 overleaf. Everything is the same information in different forms, be it vibrational, electrical, chemical, whatever. The means of communication is different, but it's the same information in different forms. It is like a man-ina. Figure 3. When we open our minds, we can connect with the greater I, and access expanded levels of understanding, insight, and awareness. The world then looks very different from the one perceived by those still in the bubble. Physicality, out there. The fact is there is no out there when it comes to the physical world. It feels like you are physically holding the book, I'll grant you, and the same for me as I tap this keyboard, but your hands and mine are converting vibrational information from the book and from the keyboard into electrical signals which the brain decodes into the sense of physically holding the book and tapping the keys. I will be going into this in much more detail as we go along. It is fundamental to understanding what is really happening in this world. Much of the information I shall be revealing across many subjects will seem extraordinary and far out to most people, but what the hell else can be more far out than the fact that you figure for the physical world as we perceive it does not exist except as vibrational and electrical, or not even physically holding the book information decoded by the body brain into illusory you are reading. The world is not just a physicality in our heads. It is like a computer, little bit different to how we think it is, decoding information on a software disk to appear it's nothing like we think it is. It makes on the screen as colors, text, pictures and graphics. Me smile when I hear comments like, "Icke's a madman," in response to views which, when it comes to weirdness, are not in the same league as reality itself. Icke's crazy. Oh really? Do you think that's air you're breathing now? Mind perceives reality in terms of apartness, structure, language, hierarchy, laws, time, space and individuality. This is its job, to give consciousness an experience of such things. The problem is that humanity has identified so totally with mind and its sense of perception that people think that their experience is who they are. It is like being at the keyboard, mouse in hand, seeing everything as the computer sees it. Suddenly, all our creativity and uniqueness would be lost to the universal software behind all computers. So it is with humans when we identify with mind and body and forget our true and infinite nature. It is, however, more than just forgetting. We have been manipulated to forget, generation after generation, by the network of interbreeding bloodline families that I have been exposing all these years. The shadow people, as I call them, know how we create reality, and their goal is to keep us in mind and out of consciousness. In that state we become controllable en masse. They lock us into the mind-body computer level of perception and then program the computer's sense of reality by controlling the information and electrochemical influences that we receive. Once again, I will explain all as we proceed. People talk about the conscious mind and subconscious mind, and they use phrases like regaining consciousness and such like. I am using the term consciousness in a very different way, not least with a capital C, to emphasize that all consciousness is one consciousness expressing itself in infinite ways. When I talk about consciousness, I mean that level of awareness that is eternal and infinite, our primary state. It is all-knowing, all possibility, infinite one consciousness in awareness of itself. Everything is an expression of that one consciousness. It has to be, because that's all there is. But not everything is in the same state of awareness, and, compared with consciousness in awareness of itself, mind is a village idiot. It is said that self-awareness, being aware of one's own existence, is the definition of being conscious. I disagree. Self-awareness may mean you are aware POSAD. S greater than U less than 3 ASIG 3 as mind. Figure 5. Mind, people see almost everything from the perspective of the five senses and so become of your own existence, but it doesn't entrapped by the illusions of the physical world. Mean you are conscious in the sense that this makes them so easy to manipulate and control. I am using the term here. Mind has self-conscious people retain their connection to their awareness, not least through its false higher levels of awareness, and see everything from identity of being Ethel Brown or Charlie. Another point of observation. They are, in this, Jan say, IE, Smith and the, life stories, that go with world, but not, of, it. Mind people often call conscious people, crazy, or, dangerous, because of them. Nay, if mind soy equals closed, their very different perspectives of reality circuit, a closed mind, as it is with most people, it will not be truly conscious in the sense of eternal consciousness, or infinite awareness. It will be operating with a fundamentally limited sense of awareness, possibility and self-identity. Fig 5. If you are new to this, it can be a lot to take in, but it really is very straightforward when you connect the dots, as I will. Great minds think alike, and the not-so-great mind communicates via thought. It never stops thinking. Humans are addicted to thinking because they are addicted to mind and believe that this is who they are. In turn, the thoughts become emotions, the body-mind reaction to thought, and so humans are addicted to emotion, too. You don't even have to experience something directly to trigger an emotional response, you just have to think about it. We live in a mind-made world, full of mind-made people, and so the mind is God. He's got a great mind, she has an incredible mind, what a brilliant mind. The mind is everything in a man-made reality, and that's why the intellect is a focus of worship in what we call the modern world. Being an intellectual, or an academic, is confirmation, according to our distorted understanding, that you are clever. Well, it depends what you mean by clever. The dictionary definition is mentally quick and original, bright. Mentally quick, okay, but that's the role of mind, to work things out through thought. Original, not true. Originality comes from consciousness, not mind. Bright, again, what is meant by bright? If it means the ability to hold lots of facts in the memory and pour them forth at will, well, that's just mind again. What we call cleverness comes from mind, while wisdom comes from consciousness, and, as I have been saying for years, cleverness without wisdom is the most destructive force on earth. For example, it is very clever to build an atomic bomb, but it is not wise to do so. We have lots of clever people, but not many wise ones, and that's because the perception of humanity is dominated by mind, the computer-like conduit, and not the true self. I have been speaking to different types of audiences for 20 years in more than 50 countries, and beyond question it is the intellectuals and academics that are the most unresponsive to anything outside the box. That box is mind. They are so imprisoned by mind that they cannot compute information and awareness inspired by consciousness. It is an alien world to them, like something from the Twilight Zone. Yet they are the ones who are celebrated for their intelligence, and it is they who run the institutions that control and direct society. The mind-made system spews out mind-made robots to administer the mind-made system. Round and round it goes, decade after decade. While mind communicates through thought, consciousness speaks to us as knowing. This is also called intuition. It is not something you think. It is something you feel, something you just know. We all have this intuition to an extent. It is that feeling that you know something, but you don't know why you know. I just know I have to meet this person, go here, be there. There are usually no words mind to explain this knowing, this urge to do something, but it comes from somewhere deep within. Yes, from consciousness. The dominance of mind over our sense of reality closes the door to intuition, because if we follow that feeling, then mind is no longer the governor, no longer in control. Of course, it is going to fight to protect its preeminence. How many times have you had an intuitive knowing or a powerful urge to do something only for the chatter in your head to talk you out of it? You can't do that. What will your family think, and the neighbors and the people at work? It's irresponsible. You have commitments, duties, and what about your career? You will be letting people down, and yourself. You can't just up and go on a whim. It's not logical. Ah, yes, logic, a system of reasoning. But what is reason? The dictionary definitions are classic. The capacity for logical, rational and analytic thought, intelligence, good judgment, sound sense, a normal mental state, sanity. Mind. The capacity for logical, rational and analytic thought, intelligence, refers quite obviously to the intellect or mind, but good judgment, sound sense. By whose criteria, pray? The mind domination of our reality means that everything is defined from the perspective of mind. Good judgment, sound sense, is simply the mind's definition of what that is. What if mind, as is the case, knows a fraction of what there is to know? Would you take a village idiot's definition of good judgment, sound sense, and live your life accordingly without question? This would be crazy, but the best part of 7 billion people is doing just that every day. If you looked out of the window on a fine sunny morning, you would think it's sound judgment, good sense, to ask the family round for tea in the garden, or to pull out the deck chairs to work on the tan. If you had a greater awareness of events, say that a hurricane was coming, what appeared at first to be sound judgment, good sense, would suddenly be revealed as potential suicide. So it is with the vastly different scale of awareness between mind and consciousness. When you open mind to consciousness, you realize how limited, and even stupid, mind really is when operating as a closed circuit and, consciously, aware of only 5 sense reality. You also see that to accept mind as the arbiter of good judgment, sound sense, is simply insane. Talking of which, I love that third definition of reason, a normal mental state, sanity. The delusory perspective of mind is the point from which everyone and everything is filtered and judged. If you are saying things that are beyond the capacity of mind to understand, you must, by definition, be insane and not in a normal mental state. This is why I have said so often that I welcome being called insane, because that is confirmation of my sanity. Thank you to all concerned. Don't be so dense, everything is energy in different forms. Experiments by Japanese scientists have shown how the body glows and emits light that rises and falls with the passage of the day. 5 healthy male volunteers were placed bare-chested in front of cameras in complete darkness for 20 minutes every 3 hours. The researchers found the body glow rose and fell over the day, with its lowest point at 10 a.m. and its peak at 4 p.m., dropping gradually after that. It is thought that these fluctuations in energy emissions are connected with the principle of the body clock. The body-mind is energy, as everything is, and it can be free-flowing, open mind, or dense and heavy closed mind depending on our state of being. Nothing induces this energy density more than fear and rigid belief. A phenomenon known as brain mapping means that rigid beliefs are self-perpetuating as the brain filters reality to fit the belief. Those in the shadows seeking to control world events are after your mind, your belief. They pretty much don't care what rigid belief you have, religious, political, whatever, so long as you have one. Any of them will limit your ability to see the big picture, and they can also play belief against belief to divide and rule. Open minds that can expand to consciously connect with infinite awareness are the worst nightmare of the manipulators, and they have structured society to do everything possible to suppress such an awakening, such an opening of mind. Rigid belief can even be seen in the way the neuron cells connect in the brain. They form an electrical web that represents the rigidity of perception, and the neurons fire in accordance with the sequence that represents the belief. These networks are called brain maps, and they can be summed up by the phrase, neurons that fire together, wire together. David Schoenberg, an American psychiatrist from the William Alanson White Institute of Psychiatry in New York, says that thoughts are vortices of energy that can become fixed and rigid. These vortices are another level of the process that connect with the neuron networks and create the rigid, repeating sequence in how they fire. Schoenberg suggests that these fixed, dense vortices reveal themselves as fixed opinions, a rigid sense of reality and unchanging views. It also goes the other way with fixed opinions and beliefs creating the dense vortices and fixed neuron networks. It is these networks and low vibrational energy fields, different expressions of the same beliefs, that close the channels, hold us in 5-sense reality and block the conscious connection to infinite awareness. They are the electrical and vibrational levels of the filtering process where information is constructed by the brain to fit belief. It means that some people see the glass half full, and others see it half empty. Some see the positive in everything, and others the negative. These brain maps of neuron networks firing in a repeating sequence are like software programs playing out on a computer. They never change until you rewrite the software codes or change the disk. Most people never do, and that is why they are so predictable and limited in perception and behavior. When we break out of such rigid thought, the neuron web snaps and another is formed to match the new reality. With that, the filtering process changes and other fields of possibility are decoded that were not being accessed before. We experience this as a life-changing event, or a sudden surge of new opportunity in our life that hadn't presented itself before. This opportunity was always there in the mass of energy within all possibility. It was just that the person's belief was causing their brain not to read it and bring it into physical experience. Rigid thought and low vibrational states, especially fear, cause our energy fields to fall into slow vibrational density, and this creates a firewall to infinite awareness. What do we call people who aren't very bright? We call them dense. After I had my initial awakening in 1990, I was saying things that were way outside the belief systems of most people, and their brain maps fired to decode me as crazy, even dangerous. What was happening, in fact, is that I was in the process of going out of my mind and into consciousness. Lying to yourself. A major expression of these brain maps is a phenomenon known as cognitive dissonance. It is an imbalance of the mind and emotions that maintains humanity in ongoing ignorance and servitude. To understand cognitive dissonance is to understand so much about the human condition. It may sound very highbrow and spawned from the often twilight world of intellectual jargon, but it is really very simple. It means to be in two minds, basically, with one contradicting the other. This mostly takes the form of a belief contradicted by experience, information, or behavior. Cognitive knowledge, awareness dissonance discord, is the state of inner stress and unease caused by a person's belief not matching their experience, behavior, or the facts before them. In that one short sentence I have described most of humanity and why the world is as it is. This state of unease insists that we square that circle by resolving the contradiction, and this is done mostly by lying to ourselves, or what I would call self-deception. Humans are in a constant state of cognitive dissonance, and this is mercilessly exploited by those who wish to control us. Shut up. I don't want to hear it, is one expression of cognitive dissonance, or an effort to avoid it. How often we hear this said when a rigid belief system is faced with information that contradicts its reality. Those words betray what happens when beliefs and perceptions are challenged by evidence. To remove the dissonance, the stress of contradiction, people mostly either A. dismiss the belief challenging information as untrue, without further investigation, or B. change their beliefs and assumptions in the light of new information or experience. If you do the latter, cognitive dissonance is a positive thing. You learn from new information and experience and expand your awareness. Unfortunately, however, most people figure 6. Cognitive dissonance can be a form of schizophrenia in which two contradictory views or facts are both believed to be true to war is peace, take the other route and try to protect their belief. Freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength system from all challenge Fig 6. You see this most powerfully with religious believers, academics, scientists, doctors and those with a rigid political or cultural worldview. If they have to choose between their belief system and greater understanding, the belief system wins every time. This means that they must discredit the messenger in their own mind, that Icke nutter, to somehow explain away the information while leaving the belief system intact. The skeptic society is really the cognitive dissonance society. It is not there to question information and beliefs that challenge its own, but only to discredit them out of fear of their own belief system being flawed. The more that we understand about the true nature of reality, the more ludicrous are the explanations from the belief system groupies of academia. There is a parapsychologist at a UK university who has constantly dismissed the so-called paranormal and near-death experiences in terms that make the head shake. She has said that near-death experiences, when enormous numbers of people have reported leaving the body and then returning, are the brain remembering its life as it dies. Well, how can it be remembering floating above its body looking down on itself? It's crazy. But that's how cognitive dissonance works. The belief system clouds the judgment as the neurons fire in their repeating sequence, and even the most obvious contradictions cannot be seen. George Orwell described what we now call cognitive dissonance as doublethink, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs and accept that both are true. His phrase, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength, captures the self-delusion of cognitive dissonance. It is a human pandemic and crucial to the ongoing success of the global control system that I have spent 20 years exposing. It is also a phenomenon of mind, not consciousness. The silent voice. Most people are so enslaved by mind that they rarely, if ever, feel the urgings of their intuitive knowing, what some call the silent voice. The mind is loud, you see, and the louder the better. It loves to keep the noise going. Upping the decibels is necessary, to make sure the endless, mostly irrelevant and nonsensical mind chatter drowns out the silent voice of consciousness. What did my intuition say? Pardon, can't hear you. I said, what did my intuition say? Oh, forget it, it's gone now. Everything has awareness of some kind, and mind certainly does. It is aware that if it allows consciousness to express itself within this reality, its days of domination are over. It doesn't want that, and it has become so deluded, for reasons I will explain, that it works to close the channels to consciousness, encouraged by the elite families of the global conspiracy and their secret society networks. They use the knowledge I am outlining here to entrap the population in prisons of mind. I will detail later how they do this, but one key way is to destroy the silence and make people frightened of the silence. Quite obviously, it is in the silence that the silent voice speaks most clearly, communicating not in words so much as in awareness and knowing. Yet how many people sit in silence any longer? Everywhere the silence is being broken by the modern world, and in the deep inner sanctums of the conspiracy. This is no accident. Fat SAOYE consciousness talks to us through the heart, and that's why we tend to feel intuition in the chest area. I don't mean the physical heart, but the spiritual one that can be felt in the center of the chest. It is a vortex, or chakra, meaning wheel of light, which connects the physical level with our higher levels of awareness beyond the five senses. Fig 7 overleaf. This is the origin of why the Physical, heart is used to symbolize love. It comes from the lost understanding of what heart really means in this context. When you feel great love or compassion, notice again how you feel it in the center of the chest, the location of the heart chakra or vortex through which we also feel our intuitive knowing. When someone is trying to make a decision, we say, "What does your heart tell you?" Or, "Does it feel right?" The heart chakra is our major connection to consciousness beyond this world of illusory form, while our head, the conditioned mind, is caught in the trap of thinking in accordance with the rules and regulations of five-sense reality. Most people are imprisoned by their head, which is indoctrinated to believe the official version of what is right and wrong, moral and immoral, sane and insane, the norms of society. This is an expression of the earth-bound awareness, the five-sense mind, which is manipulated daily to accept a version of reality and possibility that suits the agenda of those seeking to control. It is based on limitation, rules and regulations and the "I can't, you can't" mentality. It sees why figure 7. The body is connected to multiple energy fields, levels of awareness through the chakra, something cannot be done or should not be done, and vortices. These are the 7 main rarely why it can or should. It is also frozen by fear, and once this holds humanity in a mental and emotional prison cell. The heart, the intuition, however, is our connection with the infinite self beyond the 5 senses. It has its own electromagnetic field and its own sense of reality. The heart feels rather than thinks, and it has knowing rather than secondhand knowledge gleaned from the indoctrination machine. Some call it innate intelligence, intelligence beyond mere knowledge. Most people have an inner war going on between what they think and feel, what their head tells them to do, and what they intuitively feel to do. Almost every time, the head is the winner. It is easier that way, or appears to be, in a mind society founded on the imposition of thought and belief. Once the norms are decided and imposed by the system through education, science, the media, medicine, and so on, any rebels or freethinkers are subjected to ridicule or condemnation, in my case, both for the crime of being different, or challenging this ludicrously limited version of reality and possibility. This process is captured superbly by a Japanese saying, "Don't be the nail that stands out above the rest because that's the first one to get hit." Mind keeps its head down. Consciousness says, "Hey, guys, I'm over here." Psychological fascism. Anyone who seriously follows intuitive knowing, rather than the indoctrinated, fearful head mind is going to face the ridicule and condemnation of the psychological fascists. These are not only people with jackboots and silly mustaches, they are parents, friends, colleagues, and, if you are in the public eye, journalists, and the public in general, anyone, in fact, who makes it difficult or unpleasant for you to be different. This reaction is clearly widely encoded in the human psyche through the power of genetic programming and domination of mind. Look at how cruel even small children can be to anyone who is different at school. Most of the human race is utterly indoctrinated by the externally implanted norms, which bombard the mind from cradle to grave. They have no comprehension that their normal thinking is their individual and collective prison. Such is their bewilderment, they not only contribute minute by minute to their own enslavement, but they also defend the control system ferociously from anyone who questions or challenges the foundations and assumptions on which it stands. As Morpheus says in the first Matrix movie, the Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters. The very minds of people we're trying to save, but until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it. I don't go with the stuff about enemies, that's classic mind, but it pretty much describes the human perception of the system that enslaves them. It is what I call the flat earth mentality. When the norm was that the earth was flat, anyone who claimed it was round was subjected to ridicule and condemnation, even imprisonment and death. When the norm changed with the deluge of evidence that the earth was a sphere, the roles immediately reversed and anyone who claimed it was flat then got the treatment. Norms rule, okay. Set the norms and you control human perception and behavior. This is why exposing norms for the nonsense they are is so important. Those who live life through their intuition always attract the attention of the thought police, because the head and the heart, mind and consciousness, view reality from completely different points of observation. Five-sense mind disconnected from consciousness is engaged in a constant and furious battle with intuition through fear of losing its perceived power over events and behavior. If someone said their intuition told them that there were bandits around the corner and that they should turn back, the mind of others would ask them for the proof. They would be told not to be so silly and to stop spoiling the trip. In the same way, people have refused to get onto aircraft that were later to crash, because they had a feeling, intuition from consciousness. Even if these people had told the other passengers what they felt, most would have still got on the plane. Their heads would tell them the likelihood of crashing was minuscule and, anyway, they needed to get to their destination to attend a business meeting or to make a dinner date. Also, the great breakthroughs in understanding, including those in science, are invariably the result of intuition, of gut feeling, rather than of intellect alone. The intuition is the inspiration, and the intellect, or mind, only confirms it. Daring to be different when we follow our intuition, we often find ourselves behaving in ways that the conditioned, imprisoned minds of people around us find impossible to understand. They have to rationalize your words and behavior by saying you are mad or dangerous. In fact, you are merely different, viewing reality from another point of observation. It is like the scene with Robin Williams in the 1989 movie, Dead Poets Society, where he told his pupils in a norm-dominated school, stand upon my desk to remind myself that we must constantly look at things in a different way. You see, the world looks very different from up here. Just when you think you know something, you have to look at it another way. Even though it may seem silly or wrong, you must try. We all have a great need for acceptance, but you must trust that your beliefs are unique, your own, even though others may think them odd or unpopular. Even though the herd may G6, that's bad. With perfect timing, just before my own awakening, I had some experiences that led me to decide that if ever my mind and intuition, my head and heart, were in conflict again, I would always go with my intuition. I have never wavered from that to this day. As I was soon to find, this commitment to relying on intuition can land you with serious challenges in a world that operates through head and mind. In the midst of such experiences, the head is screaming at the heart, "T told you so. Look what happens when you don't listen to me." This is where most people pull back and return to the head, experiment over. But when you stay with it and continue to follow your intuitive knowing in the face of all the consequences that may follow, a wonderful, liberating transformation begins to manifest. Mind is judging events only from the perspective of seeing to the next bend in the river, but your intuition consciousness is viewing the entire river from source to sea. It knows that while things might seem bad at this point, the experience is leading somewhere really positive a little downstream. This has happened to me constantly, and never more so than in the opening years of the 1990s. Sometimes you get angry and frustrated because, to mind, something has gone wrong, but you later see that what went wrong was actually perfect in the light of what came from it, or the gift of experience that it gave to you. For instance, using the river analogy, you might have been swept to the shore by the current or have sprung a leak in your canoe and had to stop. You might be furious, curse your luck, and say, "Why me?" Then, along comes a local who tells you what good fortune you've had because just around the next bend was a massive waterfall that would surely have killed you. When you become more sensitive to your intuition, you don't even need hints, like a leaky boat, you just know that you should head for the shore and go no further. The challenge is to read the signs and messages that intuition and life experience give to us and act upon them instead of letting mind have its way. There is no reason to stop, mind would say. There is no evidence that there are waterfalls or rapids in this river, and until I see the proof we are going on. If you open to consciousness, you can bring mind into line as an ally and not an enemy. It can be restored to its rightful place as a servant to the experience of consciousness and no longer be the master. As a result of going with my intuition, no matter what, my five-sense mind has been able to observe, logically, that while following intuition can throw up enormous challenges, the experience always turns out to be what was necessary from the bigger perspective. It sees that what appears to be self-destruction actually leads to a positive outcome, and this happens because of the self-destructive experience, not despite it. With this tealization, head moves into harmony with intuition, and the war between what you think and feel, think and know, comes to an end. The two become one, and you follow your intuitive knowing, without the head symbolically banging its fist on the table. Life is less about learning than about unlearning, or deprogramming. Consciousness in its highest state is already all-knowing. Becoming conscious is not something we need to strive for, it is our natural state. People spend so much time seeking that they never stop to find. We are consciousness, there is no need to search for it. What we need to do is remove the illusory barriers and diversions, so well symbolized in equals and SSIG equals, copyright equals O less than equals W smiley face, a registered A equals G equals less than. 2 S's less than equals figure 8. Humanity is overwhelmingly disconnected from consciousness by manipulated diversions and belief systems designed to focus perception on the figure 8, that block our connection to 5 senses. When we do this, we block out infinity, who we really are, and so keep us in and perceive a fraction of what there is to see and mind. The foundation on which all the no diversions are constructed is the attachment to mind, and the belief that this is who we are. Break that addiction, that illusion, and consciousness floods in without you doing anything else. You can hold a ball on the bottom of a tank of water, but once you let go, free yourself from mind, it flies to the surface in an instant. It has to. That is its natural state. It is not that we need to destroy mind, not at all. It has an important part to play, indeed crucial, in being the interface, the computer system, that allows our consciousness to experience this world of form and things. It is mind that decodes this reality into what we think is a physical landscape. It decodes what we call words and language, and it basically allows us to function within the illusion. There is nothing wrong with a brilliant mind, so long as it is part of our perception and not the governor of it. Once we think we are the mind, that's when our ass and the sticky stuff make contact and secure a firm connection. That's when we become Ethel and Charlie. I refuse to identify with such fake personas. I am not David Icke. I am infinite consciousness, and David Icke is my current experience within this physical reality. The inner shift that takes place when you make that distinction will change your life forever.